And Mali today, with what goes on, the honor of working for him as his senior foreign policy advisor, path, except, of course, the country where I come from.
Problems and finding solutions to the problems on others.
But first of all, let me say I'm very pleased to be able to participate in this particular panel.
The transatlantic and Euro-Atlantic community for a country like Georgia.
Of cooperation on Afghanistan, counterterrorism.
Director of the International Center for Defense Studies in Tallinn, Estonia.
Many of our countries right now, a forward vision of how to bring...
First of all, in Georgia after the October elections, we have the unique opportunity to present ourselves to the world, to the NATO, that we're fundamentally democratic as a nation, because we passed this test and it was the first transfer of power through the peaceful means. After the elections, we're struggling now hard to get a new handle of the security environment around us, and as Sandy just mentioned, we are also trying to be realistic and have realistic position towards Russia, which means that we have to have the workable relationship with them. At the same time, we're sending signals to the Ossetians and Tkhinvali population of the occupied territories that we are really building the infrastructure, political will to really have the environment which we can coexist together, so there's going to be a stable, enduring peace process. And skeptics before were telling us that we cannot have closer Georgia enough because the Russians will be upset. You don't have the policy towards the breakaway regions. Now we're putting this in place. I just want to hear how helpful it will be to transform the mindset of the skeptics for the Georgia's full integration to the NATO. In light, when we have the largest constituency in the world per capita in Afghanistan, and we're there not because that we want to be liked by others, but we are there before we do believe what we're doing there. We're fighting the common goals. So that's the question. How helpful it will be for those skeptics that these processes, if successful, I'm sure successful, that Georgia will have the opportunity to be a full-fledged member of NATO.
I won't say much more on Irakli's question. I think the bottom line is Georgia's under very close scrutiny, and everything you do in terms of regional relations, relations with Russia, but especially in terms of deepening democratic institutions and the rule of law, is going to be watched very closely by allies. That's, I guess, both a blessing and a curse. But I do think that allies will ultimately recognize success if they see it.
Thank you.
But which doesn't mean that, as Rupert's point about expansion of the alliance has to strengthen our security. That is true, and that's part of Article 10 of the Washington Treaty. But I think that we have time to work the relationship with Russia and continue to stand by our principles with respect to Georgia.
In the first instance, I do want to say we saw a democratic election in Georgia, and we have some concerns about a less than democratic transition. So we have to continue to work on that with you. We hope to see this transition stabilize in Georgia, continue to move forward. The bigger context, though, is I think that our lack of vision for enlargement in a country like Georgia, or being part of the transatlantic and Euro-Atlantic community for a country like Georgia, is related to a myopic or a misguided approach to dealing with Russia. That we buy into the argument that somehow if Russia's neighbors come closer to the rest of us in a democratic, market economy, safe community, that's a threat to Russia somehow, or Russia has some veto over that. And I think we have to reject that completely. So every country has the right to make up its own mind. Ambassador Grushko last night talked about the Charter of Paris for a new Europe. That's in there, that every country has that right to set its own course for itself. Now, part of that, and very important part of that, is that this idea of a Euro-Atlantic community or a transatlantic community should not be construed as excluding Russia. That we very much would want Russia to be just like the most successful countries in this Euro-Atlantic community, democratic, market economy, security, and all of that, and cooperative with the rest of it. If Russia were in that position, it wouldn't be concerned about how its neighbors are doing. And so I think rethinking the way we think about Russia also is important to getting our relationship and our encouragement for countries like Georgia right.